The dry Arizona wind rolled through the town like a restless spirit, carrying the scent of sun-baked earth, horse sweat, and the faint acrid memory of black powder from a war most folks wanted to forget. The year was 1891, though the air in that place still felt like the frontier's wild years hadn't ended. At the edge of the desert, where the rail tracks stopped abruptly as if the rest of the world had given up trying to tame this land, the small settlement of Red Creek buzzed with an uneasy anticipation. The sheriff's office stood at the center of the town, its weathered boards faded from years under the blistering sun. Outside, a wooden platform had been set up. Normally, such a platform would be used for cattle auctions or the sale of horses. Today, the crowd that gathered knew it was something far rarer, and far more unsettling. Standing barefoot in the dust, her wrists bound with rawhide, was a young Apache woman. The heat shimmered off the ground around her, but she stood as still as a statue. A faded wool blanket, frayed at the edges, rested across her shoulders, the only protection from the harsh morning light. Her hair was black as obsidian, streaked with dust from her capture, but still glossy in places where the sunlight caught it. Her face was carved from stone, showing nothing, not even when the men in the crowd muttered about her in low, mocking tones. Some came out of curiosity, drawn by the novelty of what they called the last Apache in these parts. Others came for darker reasons, their eyes crawling over her with a predatory interest. The war against her people had been over for years, but for some, the prejudice never ended. The sheriff, a thick-set man with a badge dulled by years of sun and grime, stepped forward, his voice carrying with the kind of authority that came from long practice. "Last of her kind in these parts," he announced. "Captured 3 weeks ago near San Carlos. Government says she can't be left to roam. She needs a sponsor, someone to take her in, keep her in line." His eyes swept over the crowd before he said, "Bidding starts at $20. There was a murmur, the shifting of boots in the dust. $20 was a fair sum for most in Red Creek. But the curiosity, the temptation of owning something rare, made the first voice rise. 25. The woman didn't move. She stared straight ahead, chin tilted slightly upward as if to challenge anyone to try to break her. 30. 40. The bids trickled upward. The men talked among themselves, muttering things about her being a servant, a field hand, or worse. Each word landed like a blow in the air, but she didn't flinch. Her pride was a shield. The sheriff's eyes darted around for higher bids, but then the voice came, low, steady, cutting through the mutter like the crack of a rifle. $100. Heads turned. The murmurs stopped. From the shade of the saloon's awning stepped a tall figure, moving with a deliberate, measured pace. He was dressed in a worn but well-made coat, his hat pulled low enough to shadow most of his face. His boots were dusty from travel, but the way he carried himself left no doubt he was no ordinary drifter. It was John Mercer. Most knew his name, though few claimed to know his full story. They whispered about his time as a captain during the war, about battles both in the South and out here on the frontier. A man who'd ridden with the army against the Apache, and lived to tell about it. "Mercer," the sheriff said, his brow furrowing. "You sure you want to spend that kind of money?" "I'm sure," Mercer replied. His voice was calm, even, but carried an undertone of something final. "She's mine." The crowd erupted into mutters again, some laughing, some shaking their heads. "Didn't think you were the type, Mercer," someone called. "Guess a man gets lonely out there," another chuckled. Mercer didn't answer. He didn't even glance at them. The sheriff shrugged and called it done. No one dared outbid him, whether because of the price or because of the man himself, no one could say. Mercer stepped toward the platform, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust. The sheriff pulled out a knife, cut the rawhide from her wrists, and handed Mercer a thin, crumpled paper, the proof of transfer. It was then she looked at him for the first time. Her dark eyes locked onto his, unblinking, sharp as flint. She seemed to be searching for something, perhaps trying to see through him. Mercer didn't touch her. He didn't take her by the arm or lead her like some prize. Instead, he nodded toward the road leading out of town. "Come on, we're leaving." She didn't move at first. Her voice, when it came, was low but steady, carrying a faint Apache accent over words in English. "I am not your property." Mercer met her gaze without flinching. "I know," he said. "And I didn't buy you to make you mine." Her brow furrowed, but he was already walking toward a pair of horses tied near the town well. His own bay gelding stood patiently, and beside it, a smaller mare, clearly saddled for her. He held the reins out without a word. The crowd watched, confused. This wasn't how such things went. She hesitated, but curiosity outweighed suspicion, and she took the reins. "Ride," Mercer said, mounting his own horse in a smooth motion. "I'll explain when we're far from here." Without waiting for an answer, he turned his horse toward the open desert, the wind lifting the brim of his hat just enough for her to see the hard lines of a man who'd known too much loss. She swung into the saddle and followed, the murmurs of the town fading behind them, replaced by the steady rhythm of hooves against the dry earth. Somewhere ahead, beyond the heat haze and the rocky ridges, lay the truth about why he had spent so much money to take her away, and why that truth would shock everyone who thought they knew John Mercer. They rode for hours, the town of Red Creek shrinking behind them until it was nothing more than a smudge against the horizon. The sun was a relentless weight overhead, pressing heat into the back of their necks and shoulders. The desert stretched in all directions, rolling dunes of ochre dust, scattered cacti like silent sentinels, and distant mountains blurred by heat shimmer. Mercer kept his pace steady, neither rushing nor slowing, his eyes sweeping the land with a soldier's habit of watching for movement. The woman followed a few lengths behind, her posture straight, her grip on the reins firm. She hadn't asked another question since the moment they left town. When the sun began to dip, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold, Mercer finally pulled up beside a shallow arroyo where mesquite trees threw slanted shadows across the sand. "We'll stop here for the night," he said, dismounting. She didn't reply, but slid from her saddle with the quiet efficiency of someone used to surviving outdoors. Her eyes swept the place in a quick, assessing glance, the trees for shade, the low slope for wind cover, the signs of animal tracks in the dust. Mercer unpacked his saddlebags in silence, pulling out a bedroll, a battered tin coffee pot, and a small bundle wrapped in oilcloth. He struck a fire with practiced ease, the flint sparking into life against the dry kindling. When the flames were steady, he finally looked at her. "You got a name." Her eyes flickered toward him, then away. "Taya," she said after a pause. "Daughter of Koso." Mercer nodded. "John Mercer." "I know," she said quietly. That caught him off guard. "Do you?" She met his gaze, her face unreadable. "The soldiers spoke of you. The man with the black horse. The man who always came back from raids." His jaw tightened. He busied himself with pouring water into the coffee pot, letting the fire take it. "Not all of us came back," he muttered. She sat cross-legged across from him, the firelight flickering on her face, softening the hard lines of her expression. "Why did you take me?" she asked, her voice sharper now. "Men like you, they take what they want." Mercer didn't look up from the fire. "I didn't buy you to own you." Her brows drew together. "Then why?" He reached for the oilcloth bundle and slowly unwrapped it. Inside was a worn leather pouch, tied shut with sinew. He untied it and poured its contents into his hand, a small carved pendant in the shape of a coyote, its surface smoothed by years of touch. Her breath caught. She leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the pendant. That belonged to my mother." Mercer nodded. "Found it after a raid near the Salt River. I wasn't with the men who took it, but I was with the men who buried the dead after. I kept it because I thought maybe, one day, I'd find who it belonged to." Her fingers trembled as she reached out. He placed the pendant into her palm without hesitation. She closed her hand around it, holding it against her chest as if trying to feel the warmth of the woman who'd worn it before her. For a long moment, the desert was silent but for the soft crackle of the fire. Then she spoke, her voice low, almost breaking. "My mother died when I was a child. This was all I had of her, until soldiers took it." "I know," Mercer said. "I saw what they did. I saw a lot of things I wish I could forget." She looked at him sharply. "And yet you fought with them." He didn't flinch. "At first, yes. I believed what they told me, that the raids were to protect settlers, that the Apaches were savages who couldn't be reasoned with. Then I saw the truth. It wasn't war. It was slaughter. And I stayed too long in it before I walked away." Taya's eyes searched his face, looking for a crack in his calm, some sign of deception. What she saw instead was the quiet weariness of a man who carried more ghosts than he cared to count. "Why help me now?" she asked. Mercer leaned back against his saddle, the firelight catching the edge of his weathered features. "Because you were about to be sold to someone who'd break you. And because," he hesitated, then added, "because I owe a debt." Not to you, but to your people. There was a man once, an Apache scout, who saved my life in the Dragoon Mountains. I never paid him back. He's long gone now. Maybe this is the closest I'll get. Her gaze softened, though she didn't let her guard drop entirely. So you think by saving me, you balance your ledger? Mercer gave a faint, humorless smile. Ledger like mine doesn't balance. But it's a start. The coffee boiled, and he poured 2 tin cups, sliding one toward her. She hesitated, then took it. The bitter drink was hot against the cooling night air. Above them, the stars began to burn through the darkness, countless and cold. Somewhere far off, a coyote howled, a long, lonely sound that seemed to hang over the desert like a memory. Taya traced the carved lines of the pendant with her thumb. Where are we going? Mercer glanced toward the north, where the jagged silhouette of mountains rose against the starlit horizon. There's a place out past the Verde River. A small settlement, friendly to your people. You can stay there, or, you can keep riding. I won't stop you. She studied him for a long moment. And if I ride away, you'll just let me go. He met her gaze evenly. You're not mine to keep. Her lips pressed together, and she looked back at the fire. For the first time since they left Red Creek, her shoulders seemed to ease, just slightly. Mercer lay back on his bedroll, his hat tilted low over his eyes, but he didn't sleep. He could hear her breathing across the fire, steady and deliberate, the sound of someone who had lived too long in danger to ever truly rest. In the morning, they would ride again. Toward freedom for her, and perhaps a sliver of redemption for him. But for now, under the vast, indifferent stars, the silence between them was not the silence of enemies. It was something else entirely, the first fragile thread of trust, spun in the middle of an endless desert night.